Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone coming in from around the world. And I mean around the world today. Petra's coming in from New Zealand for crying out loud over Skylink. So that's pretty cool. So, this is the Workspot webinar. And today we've got a cast of our ecosystem, our community here, Workspot, as well as representing folks from Panzura Graitec, and then a customer of ours, Andy Knopf from Mead and Hunt. So today the focus is on AEC, architecture, engineering, and construction. And that's a world where it's super heavy duty workloads, GPU accelerated, multi-CPU core systems. And these are systems that we're talking about in the cloud that are running in multiple regions. So we're going to talk about how to do that today, how to do that in new ways where you're going to save money. It's going to be the lowest possible cost. It's going to give you the happiest users and the greatest security, not only on your apps, but certainly on your data as well. And to do this in the cloud in the simplest way possible. So thank you for joining us today. I want to go ahead and go right around the horn here and introduce the folks that are going to be speaking to you today, so you know who's here. And I also want to encourage questions as we go throughout the day. Okay, excellent. All right, well, Brad Peterson, Field CTO at Workspot. I just clicked over 9 years at Workspot. Oh my God, I got to get a cane pretty soon to walk around, I think. Just been here for some time. And let's go around the horn, as you guys see on your screen here, and start off with Petra Davidson. Petra.
Hi, everybody. I'm Petra. I am coming in from New Zealand, where it is 5 in the AM. And I've been at Panzura on and off for 4.5 years now. And I head up marketing globally.
A seasoned veteran in the world of data, and that's what we're doing today. We're combining the notion of that workstation, the cloud workstation, along with the immutable data that you need to give that performance and that security. So let's go next to David. David, intro yourself and let us know where you're coming in from.
Yeah, David, I'm coming in from the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. I'm Cloud Solution Architect at Graitec. Been in the industry for 20 some years and helping people are helping users with their workstation needs and everything else since.
All right, and the name of your puppy dog?
Molly and Cooper.
Oh, you got two. Good call.
Yeah.
Molly and Cooper. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. It's good to see they're supporting you today on this endeavor. I like that from the household pets. We go now off to Andy Knopf, who is a customer of Workspot and has used it for many, many years for Mead and Hunt. Andy, tell us a little about yourself and where you're coming in from.
All right, yeah, Andy Knopf here at Mead and Hunt. Next week will be my 35th anniversary with Mead and Hunt. So I think I win the prize for most in a company. I usually do. So CIO here. Been a great ride. Been using all the technology here for a lot of years, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into it in just a little bit.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to do now. And so, Andy coming into Mead and Hunt when he was maybe 12 or 13, I think it was very early in his career, but he's a prodigy. And so now he's been there forever. He's still a young guy for sure, but he is the CIO and the major decision maker. And he's such a visionary. He's been using Workspot a long time. He's going to show you how he figured out how to use it along with Panzura to really crack the code on productivity and cost containment. Now, I said a moment ago, I encourage questions. We're not going to wait until the end for the Q&A. You guys see the little question box. You can go ahead and fill those in anytime you want. And we're going to ask you questions too. In fact, here comes one right now. I'm going to give the first poll to you guys right now, which is how would you characterize your VDI environment? Are you guys, and this is multiple choice, so tell us all about your world. Are you doing Windows desktop virtualization, Windows app virtualization, maybe some Linux desktop? How about enterprise browser? The notion of not publishing a browser to remote users, but using an enterprise browser capability. So go ahead and click on everything that applies to you, not only today, but what you're really trying to achieve, the ultimate environment that you're looking for, okay? So if you click on those and fill all that in, I'll give you guys just a minute to make all your selections. And then I got one more question for you also. So let's go ahead and share that poll there just a little bit. So it's primarily desktop virtualizations today with Windows. There's a little bit of Linux there. That's pretty cool. Definitely Windows apps and then some enterprise browser also. So that's great. Thanks for that, because that gives us context into the crew we're talking to today. Now, one more question for you, which is like, where do you host this environment, or where do you want to host this environment? Are you guys looking primarily at your data center, your colo? Are you looking at any particular cloud of the major three, or is there even a cloud in there that's not even listed? Something other, maybe it's various clouds that you've worked with other companies globally around the world, so just let us know. So if you click through those buttons there, we'll take all that information and I can go ahead and move right along. So get those last few votes in. There you go, and good, boom. So yeah, it's primarily Azure, a little colo, and a little bit everywhere else. So thanks for that. Now, you know what I wanted to do is kick in and give you guys some context on what Workspot is and does. Andy's going to talk next. We're going to go into Panzura, and then we're going to go into Graitec services, okay? So just to let you guys know, Workspot does have a very interesting focus on AEC. In fact, we even have a customer advisory board and lots of customers in this space. We've been working for a long time with these customers, and they've had a lot of really heavy-duty applications that run in these cloud workstations. We'll show you that today. Now, Andy's going to talk about his architecture that you see here a little later in greater detail and show you how he kind of started, with physical locations, popped into a single region of Azure, and then a second, and then a third. And while he's doing that, he's popping in new cloud workstations and Panzura virtual appliances and connecting it all together seamlessly so his users can work from anywhere, have low latency, have tons of power and capability, but he keeps the costs down. And that's what we're going to talk about a lot today, because that's kind of new within the last 6 months to the year, is the notion of suspending and only paying for those GPU accelerated workstations when you're using them and no other time. And that's really what this slide shows you here, is this focus on this term we use, just in time and just enough. So Andy's going to talk to you about how he determines the users, their use cases, what apps they're using, what cloud region they're in, and then are they really using it now or not? And if that window times out, those get shut down and he's no longer paying for it. And what happens when you do that is you've got a great user experience, okay? So the user sees the Workspot client, they click an icon, they launch their desktop or their application, and it comes right up because it's ready for them and ready to go. But you also keep the CFO happy because you cut those costs, okay? So happy CFO, happy user. And how do we do that? Well, purpose-built AI-driven mechanisms within that allow us to do usage forecasting. We can see who's using what, when, and put those maps together on a daily basis. And from that, we can make sure we have enough workstations warmed up and ready to go, sort of just enough and just in time, right? Just in time, it's ready to go when they need it, but when they don't need it, it's shut off. The users, we keep them happy because they can click and tell us if they have a problem or not right in the app. So that's immediate feedback. And if they have an issue, we can do root cause analysis based on our Workspot Watch and Trend tools, which is real-time and trend analysis tools that are baked in. And I'll show you more about that right down below here. So imagine this, you're the Workspot client with this observability we have. You're the client running on the device. You're connected in through a gateway, and that goes back to the actual Workspot Cloud Workstation that's running in the cloud, and all the analytics and the telemetry is executing across this whole string here. Every 30 seconds, all this data is pushed up into the cloud in our big data lake, and you can pop into there yourself and take a look at any of this and use that manually, but also there's a lot of automation that helps you manage this also, so you always know what's going on, and you can specifically do just in time and just enough. Only pay for what you're using when you need it and not otherwise. Saves tons of money that way. And this chart really helps you with that. All right. So this chart shows you, whether it's non-persistent CPU or GPU based, whether it's persistent desktops that are CPU or GPU based, it's kind of an average set of hours you might fire this up and use this during the day. And look at these prices. It's kind of crazy when you look at it this way. CPU based, 20 cents an hour, GPU based, 75 cents an hour. And the total cost for that running that is going to be better than paying for a full monthly cost. Even if they're using it 5, 6, or even 7 hours a day, that's better than paying for the thing for the entire month. And it's just running all the time. You'll save money. The end users are going to be happier. You could potentially even get them a more powerful machine that they only use 4 hours a day and spend less money than getting them a less power machine that they have all the time that they're not using. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. When you do the math on it, it's pretty exciting. So when you take a look at this, like what are the costs associated with this? Well, physical workstation, time provision, it's going to take a lot of time. You got to do break fix on the thing. It's kind of crazy. You're shipping things around. It's a physical site availability. It's excellent with performance. It costs a lot of money and so on. But if you go with a primary cloud workstation, provisions it, no break fix, it's working everywhere, you can get the cost down not only to 120 users a month if you choose, but you could even do it for pennies on the user per the hour. And Andy's going to talk to you about the math that he has and how that works, okay? And of course, go configure it just right. Configure the virtual cores, the number of cores, the memory, the GPU video RAM amount for the user in the use case. We put together some models that work. Andy's got his models as well, depending on whether the application is CPU intensive or maybe it's just a unit processor, so it only can use one CPU, one core. Or maybe it's GPU intensive, but you should know the difference and configure those cloud workstations for those users for optimal performance and keeping the cost down. Now, built into the product are those tools to watch and monitor all this stuff. So Workspot Control allows you to set that up and configure that to monitor it just in time. And then those real-time alarms come up in case there's resources running in the cloud that you do not want there. If you said shut that resource down and it's still running, we're going to throw an alarm if it's still there and alert you to the fact so you can kill that resource and not find out at the end of the month that you've been paying for something you're not using. We also have the modeling capability built in. You can see each day of the week here. We can actually tell you what's being used and what's in excess, like the red curves are excess. And then you can start tuning and tightening this up so you don't have a lot of excess. And then the modeling through trends will show you not only what's active right now, historical trend analysis, but the future forecasting. We suspect next week this is what's going to happen, and we'll keep things warmed up for that. And then the heat map. Each column here is Sunday through Saturday. You can see if you come through the hours of the day, it gets super hot in the Monday through Friday and the middle parts of the day. The heat map is going to tell you when people are using this, and that is a good thing to know. You can base that on when to run these things and when not to run them and keep your costs low. And also to let you know, if this looks overly complicated or you don't have a lot of experience in the cloud, Workspot provides this white glove service for you to help you do this, because we've been doing this a long time, in Azure and GCP and AWS, okay? All right, so with that, what I want to do is I'm going to hand it over to Andy, but I'm going to ask you guys one more question here. And that is, what are your biggest issues with VDI? Now, this is multiple choice, so pick your top 2 or 3, okay? Cost, complexity, security, observability, user experience, what is it? And as I get your results here, I'm going to tell you the trend years ago was one thing, and it's really changed over time. And I can see it right now as the trend is coming through. Exactly what I suspected. So keep all those clicks on clicking. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the results here once we get all the votes in. Let's take the votes now, boom, and share. So it used to be security was the most important thing several years ago, and it's of course important. Okay, it's got to be there. It doesn't happen unless it's there. But you know what's interesting? Cost and user experience are the winners in the last 6 to 12 months that I've been doing this survey. So clearly cost, everyone's sensitive to that. And you know what? We're all sensitive to user experience as well, because we do not want to lose employees. Employees can work beyond the 50-mile radius. They can work anywhere now because we're all online, and you don't want to lose your users. You want to keep them happy users, happy CFO, and also happy CIO, which is Andy Knopf. Andy, are you happy?
I'm happy, and my users are happy. So I mean, that's the combination. You got to have both. So I'm going to go over here a little history on Mead and Hunt. And let me make sure here. So when I started back in 1990, we were one office, and I was the 85th employee that started. Now we're up over 1,400 people. We're nationwide. We keep on growing on the ENR top 500. We're very forward thinking. We already have a strategic plan that we have outlined for 2035, and our revenue continues to increase in the company. All good things. Here's some of the different areas that we work in, and the numbers that support that. And every year it seems like we're going up a little bit farther. I mean, it just seems like just a couple of years ago, I think we were like 14th or 15th in airports I can remember, and we're up to 8 right now in the country. Transportation, we can continue growing all across the board. We're growing different different departments, different areas, and that's always a positive thing. One thing that I didn't even know was a thing was a top 150 global design firms. We just cracked that here this last year, which was pretty neat to see all the firms on that. And there's some really big firms. I didn't think in my career that we'd ever crack something like that, but that was pretty neat to see as well. And then, because it's our 125th year this year, which, it works well for me, coinciding with my milestone year of 35 years as well. Here's a rich history on our company. I mean, we definitely, the people are what make up our company. There's a lot of things that we've done, back in the day, our founder was pivotal for helping design the Hoover Dam. It was kind of one of our really big projects. But there's a lot of things that we're involved with. Our culture is super important. And I think, the tools that we put in place actually help with our culture, so it's not just about being more productive and making a lot of money, obviously that is very important, but your culture and how people are able to work, I think that's super important. And that's really what Mead and Hunt is all about. It really is our culture and giving people the right tool to make them productive and to, give them that ability to be the best person they can be. And then here's just an outline of where we have offices. We're growing a lot. There's a lot going on in obviously the offices in the States. Like there's a lot of offices going on in Texas. There's a lot of them going on in Florida. That whole eastern corridor, we have a lot of offices. So, where the growth is happening in the United States, that's where we're getting, more offices, and these offices are growing in size too. So we're not seeing, a decrease at all. There's a lot of growth that's happening. I think we're having the largest amount of interns, coming into our company this year. So there's a lot of really good things about Mead and Hunt. And honestly, it's the technology that really helped us forge our way into these other areas, that really opened up different things for us that we didn't have available to us. And, you look at, for years, and we've been a Panzura customer for 12 years, and I think Workspot, it's been, 7 years, 8 years, I'm not exactly sure. But, we were trying to open up an office in 3 weeks back like 7, 8 years ago. And I just didn't have anything else to be able to open up an office with. I couldn't get a Panzura there quick enough and done, that quick. And it wasn't because of Panzura not getting something to me. I really had to get internet there. Back then, I couldn't get internet that quick. I needed to get a symmetric line and I couldn't do it. So, we were able to use, get Workspot going and get this office going. And the people that were coming in were they weren't impressed with the equipment we gave them. They're like, this isn't going to work. They didn't think we were taking them seriously because we gave them some very basic laptops. And I said, just try it. I know this is new technology. Just give it a whirl and let me know after a week. After the first week, we really didn't hear anything back. We did a call and they're like, yeah, things seem like they're okay. After 2 weeks, we did another call and they're like, we're completely sold on this technology. We can't believe how great this works. And the really great part about this is when I go home and I work on my stuff at home, the speed is still there. When I was in the office before and I would take, my equipment home, I'd have to remote back or do these other things and the speed wasn't there. And now it is the same wherever I go. So they were, really excited about getting Workspot. And a funny thing is normally we do it on offices that maybe don't have Panzura in it. We do offer Workspots now for people that have Panzura. So we had an office that was getting bigger. I'm like, I'm just putting Panzura in. And they're like, can we still keep Workspot, please? And I'm like, all right, we're going to do both. And the reason why we're able to keep Workspot in those offices is because of this new model that Brad talked about. on average, and we have about 375 people using Workspot in the company, or 400 right now. It's how often you're using it. So before, we used to have to pay for a 24/7, 365. So that was a bigger bill, and that was a little bit harder pill to swallow because we're paying for it even when people aren't using it. Now it's pay as you go. So if you're using it for an hour, you pay for an hour. It's not like, you know, like some of the licensing, like Autodesk licensing. If you use it for an hour, you're paying for it all day long if you have a token. That's not the way it works here. You're paying for what you use. So that's great. And we have a feature where it times out if you're not using it after 75 minutes. So we're really getting that benefit. So our rate from the old system that we had, it went down 40% onto this new pay-as-you-go model. And it, you know, it just was great. And really, the reason why this works so great is Panzura is the backbone. I mean, that was our lifeblood. When we first got Panzura in 2013, we had a problem with syncing files across the US. We had a problem making all this stuff work. You know, it just didn't work right. We did a POC after a month. Well, with the POC with 4 offices, we bought it for another 24 offices back at the time. That's how many offices we had. We were sold right out of the gate. And a lot of people were wondering, you know, we were pretty early adopters going to the cloud back in the day. Are like, is this really the solution for us? Is this really what we need? And I mean, it has proven itself over and over and over again. And we went from the physical stations that we still have in a lot of our offices to the virtual stations in every corner of Azure. So we're on the east, we're in the west, we're in the north, and we're in the south. So we got it covered wherever you go. If you're in the United States, you turn on your laptop and you want to work efficiently, we got everything covered. It doesn't matter where you're at, what you're using for a backend, if it's Starlink, which we talked about, or you have fiber someplace, you have DSL, it doesn't matter, you're gonna get that because it's the combination of both. You know, you can't have one without the other. Panzura is vital to this for making sure that you're syncing files across all the platforms very efficiently, and Workspot riding on top of that. I mean, it's the perfect 1-2 punch to make everything go like you want it to go. So we've been extremely happy with that, and it's so easy just to even start. You know, before you had to have physical appliances to really get going on this, but you can just stand up a site up in Azure and you can get Workspot going in no time. I think really from start to finish now, you can do it in just days compared to, you know, when I did it 12 years ago, it took a little bit longer getting everything to go. So the easy button really exists right now. It didn't so much before, but I mean, there really is an easy button. And if I go back to where I started, when I started back in 1990, we still had people drawing with pencil and paper. And we had a thing called SneakerNet. So we didn't even have a network. You took a floppy drive. If you want to transfer a file to another guy, you copied on the floppy and you walked it over to them and they put it on their machine. So where we're at today compared to where I started in my career is just, you know, exceptional. These things are available today. These things are easy to implement and get started and get rolling. Your cost savings, you're going to see cost savings. You're going to see a huge benefit. They're really, I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't, you know, put this in, because if you figure it all out, doing time savings on all the different things with on-prem solutions and headaches that people are going compared to this, you know, this is a no-brainer to me.
Nice. Hey, you know, Andy, I had a whole bunch of questions all prepped to ask you, but you answered them all because you covered every base that imaginable. So thank you for that. One snuck through is, for just a moment, talk about how you started. Like you put one region in, then the second you grew this, you grew that. And what's like the latency and proximity to the users in their cloud?
Yeah, so I mean, that was really the big thing back in the day. Latency was, you know, was definitely a big problem. That's why we went to this system. But I mean, we didn't even pick our main office. We used that as a hub for transferring files to it initially, but we picked, it was 3 regional offices, and then we just put the main server in our office. And we were trying to fix a problem with people being able to work on files at the same time, and we could never get it. So we just started small. It wasn't until the 7th Panzura that we implemented, we put it into our main office. And it takes a little bit of time to ingest all of your files. That probably is the thing that takes the longest, is however many files you got, there's going to be an ingest time that you got to think about. But I mean, you can really start working on it, really very quickly, and go from there.
So in this diagram here, we've got 3 cloud regions plus the physical on-prem regions that you have. There's that one box that represents all those. And if you connect in and you run your Cloud Workstation up in a particular region, well, you have a full copy of Panzura data right there. And so it's just hammering on that. There's no faster connection to open those huge gig files, to shut them down and save them, and so on. And then Panzura handles syncing across regions. So if you've got some folks in a region far away that's working on your project, that just makes that all super convenient.
Exactly. I mean, it is. And when I go out and I ask my users, I'm like, what would they rather use, Workspot or desktop? There's still that, I like having my machine next to me feel. Okay, and I get it. It's nice having that machine next to you. But then it's also very nice to have, your workstation wherever you're at, especially if you're working from home. And I mean, it really dovetails into, when COVID hit. When COVID hit, we went from 60 work spots to, over 325, I believe, in 2 days' time. I reserved the instances. I remember giving you a call, Brad. I'm like, hey, I think this whole COVID thing is a little bigger than what they're really making it out to believe. And I'm like, I want to get the instances early. So it was like the 3rd week in February, I locked up those instances because I thought this whole thing was just going to blow up, and it was a risk, but we had 0 downtime, and our productivity went up large amounts afterwards. And then I had people that really didn't understand why we were in the cloud and didn't understand the whole aspect of it, and really, I mean, kind of beat me up a little bit on why we were in the cloud, why we were doing this. And then after COVID, they actually called me up and apologized and said, we were wrong. This, I understand why we have this now, and if we wouldn't have had this, I don't know where we'd have been. And actually, our IT department we have an internal thing on innovation awards. Our team won an innovation award for what we did during COVID because of using these technologies.
And I remember during that time, you got all these emails and text messages from like employee spouses that were saying, thank you for bringing my spouse home during the lockdown period and allowing them to be as functional and continue working. And it's like, all these hearts were coming your way. It was an amazing time.
Yeah, and I still get that. I was just out traveling to other offices, and that's always the one that I always fear, because somebody will say, well, my spouse works in IT, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And then they're like, no, seriously, they looked at the equipment and what we're using, and they're just floored about how good equipment you have at Mead and Hunt and how your system runs. And it's a thumbs up, Andy. It's not a bad thing. It's not disparaging. Routinely, I will hear this. I don't know how often I hear it, it's like, hey, I got a spouse who's in IT, and I always kind of cringe. And it always goes to the, hey, you guys are doing some pretty fantastic things over there. So I get the spouses, okay too. So that works out well.
Definitely. Well, cool. So thanks, Andy. Thanks for telling that story. And as we go on to the Panzura section next, feel free to chime in with comments on how you use Panzura into some of the specifics that'll be useful for everyone. And a reminder to the audience to go ahead and ask questions along the way if you have them. And by the way, I'm going to ask you another question right now, a polling question, which is, where is your data located today? So your data storage. So this is multiple choice again also. So is it all on-prem? Is it in one particular cloud? And by the way, click on the ones that are desirable also. If going forward, I really want to be here, there, over here, click on those regions also. It's interesting, you can see from Andy's map that he does have physical locations as well as cloud locations, and with Panzura, it can sync across those. It's in many cases, it's having copies of the data, making sure it's immutable, and then having a proximity to it so your latency is super low. So let's go ahead and look at how we did there, Petra, before we go in. Look at that. There's a whole lot of love going on prem there for sure. And then we got a little cloud distribution with Azure, AWS, GCP, and so on. So you can see the context for the folks we're walking into right now. Are you ready, Petra?
I'm ready.
All righty then. Take it away.
Okay. So Andy said data is the lifeblood. And he's not wrong. Look, everything you do depends on being able to access your data, being able to protect your data, and then finally being able to know where it is that it's stored. It's not uncommon for people to not even understand what they're still storing. And so that's where Panzura comes in. We're a hybrid cloud file platform. It's called Panzura CloudFS hybrid cloud because it has two components to it. Three components actually. We start with the storage that can be in any of those clouds you just selected, or it can be on-prem. And then we allow you to do all sorts of cool things with it that let your users and your processes get access to it. So let's run through this. We start with getting your data into the cloud if it's not there right now. So Panzura can actually help you ingest that data from all of those on-prem server storage arrays that you have. Does a dedupe on the way in, so you end up saving some space. And then once your data is in and consolidated, we distribute those files to wherever you need them to be. And so Andy's got offices all over the US. We've got customers who've got offices all over the world. You've got one set of files and everybody is accessing them. And we can do this so fast that your users can collaborate between those sites. And so on the chattiest of the apps that you have that you use in AEC, you can have users in those same files working together exactly like they could if they were all under the same roof. And so that's how customers like Mead and Hunt get ahead so quickly. It's by being able to give talent wherever it is access to those files and work together in the way that's most productive for them. Now, it's not just about file access though, because none of that matters if you get hit by ransomware and you lose access to your data. So we make your data immutable, which means that it cannot be damaged. We protect it with mutable snapshots so that you've got a restore point to roll back to without losing data. We encrypt it so that if your data ever gets intercepted, it can't be read. And we give you lots of different high availability options that are inexpensive. And so you end up with a place where you've got this highly resilient, highly available data network that can just shrug off ransomware and any other data damage if it happens. And then because this is a platform, it's extensible. And so we have a product called Panzura Edge, can help you if you've got users in very remote locations, let's say they're working on a mobile device, can give you access into file network. Data services is an intelligence and insights overlay, gives you search, audit, compliance capabilities. And because this takes logs off the file system, then we can give you the ability to intercept ransomware as it happens. And we're going to dig into each of these things in a wee bit more depth. So one of the things that helps us, let me see if I can get this to advance. There we go. Sorry about that. It's a little laggy. All right. So I think Brad mentioned earlier, Workspot is about unifying your applications. CloudFS is about unifying your data. So let's go through what this looks like behind the scenes. Three components. You've got your hub, which is your storage. You've got your spokes for this file environment, and those are each of your locations. So they can be physical locations or they can be cloud locations, as Andy showed you before. And at those spokes, you've got a virtual environment, and that gives you your local feeling file performance. So this is now true hybrid cloud stuff. You've got some data in the cloud, you've got data on-prem, and so it feels like it's still local to your users, no matter where they are. Now, every single one of those locations has a virtual Panzura node, and go back to your virtual environment, we support a wide range of virtual environments. So whatever you're using right now, you can use for your Panzura nodes. Each one of those nodes has a copy of the metadata of the file system And it also has a cached copy of the data that you're working on right now. Now, in each of those locations, that cached data is going to be different. In some, you could have some crossover if you've got users collaborating across distance. But whatever the hot data is that you're using, that's what's cached at the edges there. And then critically, and this is what Panzura does that nobody else does, we have the ability using the mesh to let each of those locations talk to every other location. Now, super important, as you're looking for a virtual file provider, take particular note of the way that these systems are architected. Because if they don't follow that immutable principle that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, then you get data delays. Okay, so in this scenario here, we've got data in the cloud, cache data at the edges, and you've got users working on, let's pick on Revit because it's one of the chattiest applications out there. So if you can make it work with Revit, you can make it work with anything. So we've got metadata being passed between each of these locations on a minute-by-minute basis. And so let's say Andy's got a user in one location working on a Revit model. Users in other locations can be in that same model, and we're locking down the piece that each user is working on. And so nobody overwrites each other. We can do this in real time. So you're not getting that lag. You're not getting any overwrites. Andy's team doesn't have a bunch of file versions to try and reconcile. You're not trying to copy data between sites. You've created this environment where everybody can just work together effectively like they're under the same roof. So it's the productivity you get if you had a single site, except now you've expanded your network out to wherever it needs to be. Now, something else to know is you've got to get your data, obviously, into the object store. That's the cloud or on-prem object store. Again, we do this uniquely. So every 60 seconds or every 4 megabytes of produced data, whichever comes first, simultaneously at these locations, we snapshot what's changed and we move those changed data blocks into the object store where they become immutable. We'll talk a bit more about that in a sec. Then we ship those changes in the metadata back out to each of those locations. So every location has an up-to-the-minute view of what's going on. Now, here's where the mesh becomes really critical. If you've got users wanting to do something with a file, then each of those locations can speak to any other location. And so we're shipping small amounts of data back and forth saying, can I open that file? Which part of that file can I open? And by the way, now that I'm opening that file, send me anything that changed in the 40 seconds since we did the last sync into the object store, the data that I might not. And so behind the scenes, we've broken this down into the smallest possible amount of data. We've split metadata, which is tiny, out from file data. And so we're shipping the smallest amount of data across the shortest possible distance. And so to your users, all of this is just magic. It just seems like the data is there. They don't need to know the complex stuff that's going on behind the scenes. But for CIOs like Andy, making decisions like this is something that helps firms get ahead, because now you can harness your talent wherever it happens to sit. Now, this system is FIPS 140-3 certified. Now, that's important in your space because that level of encryption is what you need for CMMC 2.0 certification. So CloudFS is a file system that can be used along with the other requirements that you need for CMMC to get your certification. We actually have a lot of information about that on the Panzura website if you're more interested. So now we've talked about how you ship data around, let's talk a little bit about the protection side of it, because obviously none of this matters if you get hit by ransomware and you lose access to your data. So to your users, this looks like the files that they're used to. There is no change for them, absolutely no change in workflow. Behind the scenes, CloudFS does this translation between files and objects. And so it takes a file, splits it into 128 kilobit blocks. It then dedupes those, and it does that globally across the whole file system. It says, have I seen that data block before? If so, I don't need to store it again. And so I'm going to let those lag. I'm just going to create some metadata pointers to the blocks that I need to make up that file right now. And those are what I'm going to store. So I'm going to ship the metadata pointers into the object store by way of a snapshot. I'm going to ship those data blocks into the object store by way of a snapshot. And I've got them safe. They're now immutable. And that's my recovery point. Now, very difficult to get a global RPO of under 60 seconds. But remember I said we do the simultaneous snapshotting and sync. That means that every single location is captured at the same point in time. And so no matter where changes happened, and no matter which office or which location got hit by some sort of data damaging event, we've got all of the data, and so you can recover it. So let's slip down to this piece below. So I said we've got your file, we've turned it into blocks, we've made those, we've encrypted them, we've compressed them, we've deduped them, we've moved them into the object store. Now you've got your snapshot. You have a ransomware encryption event. So it comes along and it writes a whole lot of new data blocks because this is data that file systems never seen before. So we still store those new data blocks, but the original ones never get touched. They're immutable, they can't be changed. And so what that means is with your snapshot, all you need to do to recover your clean data is simply to restore to a snapshot that happened prior to the event. And you can do this for individual files, you can do it for directories, you can do it for the entire file system. It's entirely up to you. And so we have what is, I think, the best recovery point objective in the industry globally at under 60 seconds. So what that means is your maximum exposure for lost data is 60 seconds across any of your offices. And look, this is, Andy, I don't think Mead and Hunt had a ransomware attack, but I can tell you that a lot of Panzura customers have. Often their Panzura data is the only thing left standing after these attacks.
Yeah, we're lucky not to ever have a ransomware attack, and yeah, these extra protections that we have, probably helped in not having that happen to us.
Yeah. Yeah, now look, nothing that I've said here takes away from the precautions that you should take. Andy, I know you do pen tests on a regular basis. You're constantly protecting your network. You should still do all of those things. But know that, the stats would say it's probably not possible to mount a complete defense. And so you need to behave like that's true and that you can get your data back. Now, the next part of this, so knowing that you can restore your data, the best thing to do is to get ahead of attacks so that you don't have so much investigation to do and your recovery is faster. You're not going to lose data, but what we used to find is that it took customers longer to figure out what they should restore without losing data than actually doing the restore. And so I said you can take the logs off the file system and detect and rescue. Will actually look for ransomware attacks in real time. A new service that we have actually helps you spot data exfiltration as it happens. That's often the precursor to an encryption attack. Detect and rescue will spot ransomware in an active file environment without disrupting your performance, and it will turn it off automatically by shutting down the user. Now, that's the least disruptive way of doing it. So you're not, even if it's a false positive, you're not messing up anybody else's productivity, but you're shutting off ransomware at the source, and then you're firing off alerts to administrators saying there's something going on and you need to look at this right now. Now, here's what's critical. The file system is often the first place where you can detect ransomware. And if you suffer an attack, they tend to go after every system that you have. So if you can see it and shut it down while it's in the file system before it really starts running, then you manage to keep it often out of your other systems. So that stops it from being a multi-day or multi-week sometimes event. It gives you far less to recover. And also you'll restore, your recovery time is much, much quicker with the file system, just because it gives you far less to investigate. And that's most of my shtick. let's, we got 2 slides here. Hold on. Let me make sure I can get to the next one. There we go. Okay, so how do you buy CloudFS? So we have 3 tiers of this. Archive to just keep your data safe. That's for cold data that you don't need all the time. If you don't need the kind of collaboration that we just talked about, then we have a NAS tier that just lets you pick data up, put it in the cloud, one site can access it. And then you've got your ultimate collaboration tier. We can mix these up so that you end up at a price point that works for you. All of this comes with data immutability, as we discussed. You can get this through partners like Graitec. You can buy it through the marketplaces, and we can give you a demo of this anytime. If you want to see how it works in your environment, we can do a POC, or you can talk to people like Andy who have been doing this and can tell you how it works in their environment. And that's it from me.
Excellent. Thank you, Petra. And you guys, if you have any questions, make sure you drop them in the question box. We'll handle them along the way. And if any of them don't get handled throughout the course of the presentation, we'll get back to you guys because we get full reports on that. And so with that, let me go ahead and hand the mouse over to David to talk about Graitec. David.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. So one thing I wanted to mention, Petra talked about customers and getting their data or having their data saved. I've been at Graitec about 3 years, and we've had roughly a customer a year get hit by ransomware, and their data that's on Panzura is frankly the only thing that they haven't had to rebuild. So when she talks about having all the other protections that you need in place to protect your technology stack, it's absolutely true, because I think all 2 or 3 of them have had to rebuild their entire domain from scratch, but they were able to keep their data. So yeah, it is very important. So I'm not going to bore you with talking through these slides. You can see what Graitec is here. We provide. Why is that advancing multiply? Okay. We provide software to AEC firms and manufacturers, custom training that we can tailor to your workflows, consulting services to help discover deeper challenges and provide solutions for them. Yeah, we have a bunch of different software packages that we offer, and these are all our own IP. So advanced design for structural, and StructSoft for structural, PowerPack for Revit, FileSync, which helps copy data from multiple cloud buckets to other sources, either another cloud bucket or a server, and ID8 software is another package for Revit. And then yeah, so it's like hitting twice every time I hit this. I don't know why. So yeah, we have extensive experience across AEC, fabrication, and manufacturing, and actually process plant 3D as well. So our team has real-life, hands-on experience in all of these industries, and we can. That means we help understand your challenges and opportunities, and are able to tailor a solution that helps solve your challenges.
Excellent. So thank you for that, David. And you guys can see that today we've brought you this interesting combination of Workspot and Panzura product and Graitec services combined all together to create a customer solution. And then obviously Andy, who's been with us, Workspot and Panzura for so many years, to talk about how that solution is working for him. So if that is useful for you, as we wrap this thing up, you guys are going to see a little survey. Give us your feedback and let us know. And maybe you can let us know what kind of content you would like next time at the webinar, and we will certainly provide that. Okay. So before we do go, I got one more question to ask you guys, because I'm the question kind of guy, and that's the polling question. And that's like, first of all, thank you for joining us today. And secondly, how can we best follow up with you? I know a webinar like this is kind of anonymous. You don't really get to jump in and open the mic up and go kind of crazy, but we can put a meeting together for you if you want to take your team and talk to either Workspot or Panzura or Graitec, or if you really want to get a conversation going with Andy over at Mead and Hunt, okay? So click on those things that are most interesting. Do you want to get a pilot going? Do you want some additional material? You know, get a copy of the recording so you can look at this again and share it with others. So feel free to click away at the things that make the most sense for you guys, and then we will certainly follow up with you in that way. And we'll also send you guys, you know, future invites for conversations very similar to this. All right, so let me close the polls and just say to the audience, thank you guys for coming in today and being interactive with us, giving us information and context about yourselves. Please fill the survey out. That's very helpful. And thank you to our speakers. Andy Knopf, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been it's a fun webinar. Hopefully people learned a lot, and resources are out there if you need help, for sure.
Beautiful. Thanks, Andy. I like how you got Wisconsin Red going on there. Support that hockey team. Excellent. And, and Petra, thanks for coming in all the way from New Zealand over Skylink. Flawless execution. Thank you.
No problem at all. And look, if anybody out there wants to talk to us about this without the sales pitch, they don't pay me commission. So you can call me anytime and just ask me how this works. Or I can put you in touch with other customers that might be close to your environment. So entirely up to you. But yeah, let's talk about it. You can see from Andy's experience, this can make a big difference to your company's future and also to how your users feel about turning up to work, frankly. So it's worth investigating.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I don't think there's any commission at all on this panel here. So that's a good thing. Our intentions and our motives are for your best outcomes, that's for sure. And so thank you, Petra. And also to David, thank you. And I know we've been working with you guys a long time as ASTI, Applied Solutions, and now Graitec. So thanks to you and your two puppy dogs.
Very welcome.
Great. All right. Well, hey, you know, thank you for the feedback today. We'll go through all that. Any questions we didn't answer and the responses, we'll get back to you guys. We'll give you a copy of the recording and then look forward in the future to our invitations to come to future webinars and events. Okay. Have a great day, everybody, and a great rest of the week. Thanks to everyone and take care and bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.